hot August evening was descending on Austin, wrapping the city in a viscous shroud of dust and cinders. It had been months. Detective Edgar Miller couldn't shake the haunting thought of the missing girl and her doll. The case of Jessica and Lily Harper officially closed. Mary and Jack received large sentences, but the fate of Lily remained unclear. It was as if the girl had vanished. One day, among dozens of hours of monotonous videotapes, Ed happened to notice movement on the camera in the children's room. Everything seemed familiar. Soft nightlight, toys, shelves of books. But in the mirror, a barely perceptible shadow. A movement that didn't match anything in the room. He slowed the frame down. And he saw her, Lily, in a flowered dress, stood cradling the doll and looking somewhere behind the closet, as if she were hiding. It was evidence. It was recorded 24 hours after she disappeared. But no one believed Lily was alive, except Ed himself, who scrolled through the footage over and over again, trying to figure out exactly where the small figure on the highway at night was headed. The detective showed Lily's picture, but the faces remained stony. It was like people had never seen the girl, or pretended not to. It wasn't until the evening, on the outskirts of town, that he met what he was looking for. An old man who lived on a small farm, cut off from the rest of the town by a road. He did not turn away, but slowly, almost cautiously, ran his eyes over the face of the girl in the photograph. A picture came to the man's mind. A child walking along the highway, a lone silhouette in the heat, a flowered dress, a rag doll. She wasn't crying, but there was a sense of fear, caution, a desire to hide from the world. No relief came. Somewhere inside, there was still a feeling of incompleteness, of not being told. Everything that was happening seemed to be just the tip of the iceberg. Scraps of information, small inconsistencies, suspicious shadows that had seemed random at first glance were beginning to add up to something bigger. The fragments of the mosaic led him to a man nicknamed Papa Carlo, a smuggler with a murky reputation, the owner of a half-abandoned bar on the outskirts of the city. He was famous for his ability to smuggle people across the border unnoticed. After a few cautious conversations, Carlo hinted to Ed that he'd seen a child matching Lily's description. She was with people he was afraid to even remember. When Ed tried to ask for details, Carlo nervously glanced toward the door, clearly unwilling to continue the conversation. His fear made it clear that the people behind this case were people he'd rather not cross paths with. The meeting with the informant took place in an abandoned building on the outskirts. The SUV's headlights illuminated the silhouettes in the darkness that awaited the detective. Edgar Miller slowly regained consciousness in the dank twilight of the abandoned building. Number. His head ached dully, and the ties on his wrists rubbed painfully as he was bound and thrown against the damp concrete wall. The figures of the enemy loomed dimly before his eyes, their voices echoing beneath the cracked ceiling. They revealed their cards triumphantly. It turned out that the whole trap had been carefully planned to take out a detective who was too curious. The gang leader cast a last glance at him and threw a short command to his men. One of them pulled a lever, and a threatening creak sounded somewhere upstairs. The old building was beginning to collapse. The criminals hastily fled, leaving the detective to perish beneath the rubble. Edgar jerked, trying to free himself from the restraints, but the strong nylon straps were digging into his skin. The noise was growing. A wooden beam fell somewhere. A wall cracked. Just when it looked like the ceiling was about to collapse, Olivia, his partner, who had worked with him on the case, emerged from the dust. She was there just in time. Over the years, they had learned to understand each other without words, and now it had saved Ed's life. Olivia helped him out, and together they hurried away from the collapsing trap, barely making it out the door before a section of the roof collapsed behind them. Further searches and communications in the digital world quickly led them to a warehouse complex on the border, where the information they had received said there should be prisoners waiting to be transported. The abandoned warehouse, used by human traffickers, proved to be well guarded. Under the cover of night, Edgar and Olivia made their way through overgrown passageways and metal containers. Inside the hangar, voices could be heard, people negotiating a deal. Among the captives was Lily, emaciated but alive, with the same ragdoll in her hands. She was sitting in the corner with her arms around her knees. The attack was lightning fast. They acted coherently, like an experienced team. The operatives called in advance arrived in time to apprehend the criminals. The gang was dismantled, and the investigation revealed a multi-year human trafficking scheme disguised as logistics. Lily was finally safe. Wiping away her tears, she tried to smile. She was free, the nightmare was over. The news headlines were blaring, exposing a criminal network that had lurked in the shadows for years. Those arrested had testified, the criminal scheme had been uncovered down to the smallest detail. The public was shocked by the scale of the conspiracy, but jubilantly applauded the actions of the police and the bravery of Detective Miller and his partner Olivia. The closed case brought relief, but left a mark on the minds of everyone involved in the investigation. After the rescue, the girl was handed over to her grandmother, the only close person left to her. The house Lily found herself in was simple. A small kitchen with the smell of vanilla and cinnamon, faded photos on the walls, a rocking chair by the window. There was nothing expensive, nothing luxurious, but in this house, there was the main thing: care, warmth. Far away, outside the window, the city lived its life. And on the horizon, the sun was rising over the roofs of Austin's suburban houses. Children playing in the yard of one of those houses. Lily was running around barefoot, laughing, catching the soap bubbles the other kids were blowing. Her hair was braided into pigtails, her face clean and calm. And her eyes, the same eyes that once looked dark and silent, now shone with light. On the other side of the street stood Edgar. He didn't come any closer, didn't call out, didn't intervene, just watched. A few seconds was enough. He saw what he'd stayed up nights for, what he'd risked his life for. And then he turned and walked away. Quiet as he came, his work was done. Lily was home. The world was a little brighter now, and the truth restored.